Welcome to Satsang. I always say in Hindi, there's no translation for there's not enough room. In India, somehow there's always room. So many times, so many people from abroad will think, oh, no space. But somehow Indians always figure out a way to make space. And I always say there's no Hindi translation for not enough room. It's always room. So we'll just keep making room so that there's always room. We're good. From tomorrow, I think the weather is now nice enough. We'll be back in the beautiful garden where we were before it started getting a little too cold. So I think the weather's now warmed up enough we can be back there. How can we live our inner journey? How do we experience the world inside? It's so interesting because we use words like inside and outside. And it's important in the beginning because you have to focus the mind somewhere. And so either we focus it outside or we focus it inside. And so we move from the outer to the inner. And yet, as you go deep on the inside, as that inside gets deeper and deeper, there is no outside. That whole sense of separation between what I'm experiencing on the inside and the world I'm moving through on the outside, that distinction starts to dissipate because you start to feel more and more connected. That there no longer is this distinction between inner and outer. And so when you speak about, as the question says, how to experience the inner journey, how to experience the world inside. Once you really are in the world inside, the experience isn't limited to only inside. So, I'll give an example. Let's say I come into the beautiful Ganga Arati ceremony, because for me that was always the easiest way to experience that sense of inner connection and bliss. So we'll take that example. Let's say you come into the Ganga Arati. You walk in and you're very focused on the world outside. Maybe you've been shopping in the marketplace. Maybe you really want to buy something and you can't decide this one or that one, this shop or that shop. Maybe you just met some friends for a cup of tea and maybe one of them said something and it's kind of working in your mind what they said. Maybe they told you somebody's been saying something about you that isn't so nice and that's working in the mind, whatever it may be. But you're focused externally. Maybe you ate something and stomach doesn't feel quite so right, so focused on that. Stomach sits inside, but the focus is still external. It's material, that physical stomach. So you're focused outside. Then you come in. You sit down. Maybe you close your eyes. if you don't close them, maybe you just allow them to soften as you look out over the waters of Ganga or the beautiful image of Shivji or the Himalayas. And in the environment, sacred mantras are being chanted. Maybe Puja Swamiji's singing. And slowly, 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 you start to find yourself dropping inward. Suddenly what you're going to buy in the market, or who you had tea with, or who's saying what to whom, or it all just fades away into sort of like the dream world does after you've woken up in the morning. By the time you're in the bathroom brushing your teeth, you can barely even remember what the dream was about. So in the same way, as those mantras are on, the chanting is on, the singing is on, slowly you drop inward. And as you drop inward, maybe that inner experience begins with your breath. Maybe you notice an upsurging of some joy, some bliss. Maybe you find yourself crying. You don't even know why, but maybe tears are just pouring down your cheeks or welling up inside you. But then something very, very interesting and very beautiful happens. After you've been sort of swimming in what feels very much like an inner experience, you've shifted from the outer to the inner. But as that inner gets stronger, it expands. Because the inner world is not confined to the size of my rib cage. I mean, when most of us think, oh, my heart, you think, oh, all right, so I've got, maybe a foot, 12 inches, 18 inches, 20 inches, whatever it may be. I've got kind of that far to expand. But the energy of the heart is not limited to the width of the rib cage. The energy of the self is not limited to where your skin ends. And so as that experience and awareness grows, it doesn't stop when it hits the skin or stop when it hits a rib or stop. It's not troubled by that at all. It's existing on a completely different plane of existence than your rib cage or your skin. There is no border or boundary. And so that experience that you're having that begins on the inner, that experience of love, of stillness, of just isness. Sometimes there is no word, it just isness. Experience just is. And it expands. And it keeps expanding. And then you may find that your eyes were closed, but you opened them. And this whole world is part of that same experience. Or even before you open your eyes, suddenly where there used to be people chanting and you singing, suddenly the chanting feels like it's part of you. The singing is part of you. The wind is part of you. That flowing Mother Ganga is part of you. And you start to feel like you can hear her flowing inside you, not just outside of you. And so that experience isn't relegated only to the inner. And so when we speak about an inner journey or an inner experience, don't suffocate yourself. Don't keep the vision narrow that it has to somehow exist between, the ventricles and the lungs and the ribs no. It's inner, meaning that my focus, because our physical brains and the attention that we are able to pay, the concentration that we are able to have through our physical brains is limited to moving in one direction at a time. We think we're really, really smart. We're not actually quite that smart. Our brains are wonderfully evolved in many ways, but still quite primitive in other ways. And we can actually only focus on one thing at a time. Even those of us who feel like, oh my God, my mind is in 100 places, if you really watch, you'll realize at any given moment, it can only be in one place. That experience of being in 100 places simply means that your brain moves very, very fast from one to the second to the third. So it seems like it's 100 at once. But actually at any given quick intersection, time, space, right there, you can only be in one place. And so when my focus is outer, I miss the inner. And so when we speak about go inward, it means take the intention, the very focused, conscious intention, and shift it, pull it in. Instead of being focused on what you see outside, instead of being focused on object, on form, on separation, grab that focus. Literally, grab it and turn it inward. But again, when we go inward, it's not about the material inward. So it's not about, oh yeah, my stomach is growling. Oh yeah, there's the pakora I ate at lunch. There's some gas. It's not that. Yeah, that's inside on some level. But that's not what we mean when we say go inward. It means a shift in intention, in focus, from form to content, from packaging to essence. So instead of being focused on the external world as object, as separation, as material, and therefore as me, as object and material moving through that world. What's my role? Who's being nice to me? Who's being mean? Who's being respectful? Who's not being respectful? Because then, of course, I know who I like, who I don't like. Right? Those who are nice, I like them. Not nice, I don't like them. Those who respect me, I like them. Don't respect me, I don't like them. This is how most of us think. This is that illusion of separation. And that's that focus on form, not content. If I like you because you're nice to me, what does that really mean? It means my ego structure, the building blocks of this ego, enjoy having that ego be patted or reinforced or by your words, by your actions, by the way that your eyes look at me, the expression on your face. That's all we're doing. I like you because you're nice to me. That's what it means. Your words, your actions, the expression on your face reinforce the bricks in the ego structure I've created in a way that it rewards that ego. Okay. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just calling it what it is. So that's the way that most of us move through the world. That's the outer, or I like this, I want that. Why? Because for whatever reason, I believe that that thing, whether it's a degree or a title or a bracelet or a car or a house or a person, I want it because it is going to fill me, my role, my identity, my ego structure in some way that reinforces it. Okay. That's outer, that's form. Content is the spirit of me. The soul of me, the essence of me, recognizes itself in the essence of you, in the soul of you, in the spirit of you, that in your presence, I am able to drop in to the truth of myself in a way that perhaps is easier than in the presence of someone else. We all know this. There's certain people we're with, typically spiritual people, typically people dedicated on that path, where you feel in their presence this sense of, and that's the self being able to drop into the self. And so that's a focus on content. So when we speak about an inner journey, an inner experience, it's that experience which allows me to be focused on content instead of form, on essence instead of packaging. So an experience in which, instead of identifying as my identity, my history, my body, my role, I'm able to experience the truth of who I am. I'm able to experience my essence, my divine essence. I'm able to experience the fact that I don't end where this body ends. So lust is external. Love is internal. Even though it may be another being we're loving or a tree we're loving, that may certainly seem external. I'm good. Okay, we're back. So lust is an object. Lust is exactly in this physical being, exactly where I begin and end. Seeks, wants, desires something from another physical object, physical being. That's the external. Love is in this experience, in this moment. I am transcending the physical being. In this moment, in this experience, what perhaps through you, through loving you, I am able to tap into within me is an experience of that which is expansive. Has nothing to do with the physical being of the other. If that person gets up and goes to the grocery store, you still feel love. Right? Anybody fall out of love because the loved one has gotten up and gone into the kitchen or gone to the grocery store? Of course not. Because it's an internal experience. Lust is dependent upon the physical presence of the other object. Love is internal. You get up, you go to the bathroom, you go to the kitchen, you go to the store, you go to California. I still love you. I still am able to tap into that experience of love within myself. So that inner journey, inner experience is one that brings us in touch with the truth of who we are, that expansiveness. But it's not relegated to the literal physical inner confines of my body or the brain in my skull. It's an experience through which I interact with the world. Love, consciousness, awareness. These are ways of moving through the world. They're generated inside. But they're ways then that I interact with the world. So don't think that the inner journey, it's not like, oh, go away, I'm just doing my inner journey. You're part of my inner journey. How I interact with you is my inner journey. If I'm able to do it with consciousness, awareness, love, that's my inner journey. So we begin it inward, but then we allow it to expand into how we interact with the outer. Because truthfully, there is no difference. Before I take any of the other questions that have come in advance, yes, I was going to say, is there any other questions here? But he's left at the opportunity first. Okay.
Science and spirituality.
Uh-huh.
I like to destroy all coronavirus. Is it good or not?
What do you want to destroy?
Coronavirus. So is it good or bad? I like to destroy science and I'm talking about science and
Science and spirituality, okay.
E equal to MC square is incomplete.
As in, where do science and spirituality intersect?
I ask you especially, I like to destroy all coronavirus. So
To all coronavirus. Okay. Sorry, it took me a moment to... Look, the physical body is the physical body. It is made of matter. And it follows the rules of matter. Whether you are a spiritual being who happens to be scientific, a scientific being, someone identifies as a scientist who happens to be spiritual, so you're both. Whether you are a spiritual being who hates science or a scientific being who hates spirituality, or someone who's neither spiritual nor scientific, either way, in every one of these circumstances, if you walk off the top of a building, you will fall to the ground. No one has wings and can fly, regardless of how spiritual I may be, how enlightened I may be even. If I walk off the top of a building, I will fall to the ground. Because the law of gravity interacts with the physical material of my body in such a way that is completely separate from my experience spiritually. Now, one who is spiritual might have a very different experience of plummeting to their death than someone who is not spiritual. But in either case, you're going to fall down. Because of that law of science upon matter. If you stand in Ganga, you will get wet.
peace, love.
No, you will get wet. You will also feel, hopefully, peace and love, but the physical body will get wet. Law of science. Spirituality is not about conquering science. The same God who created us created gravity. Newton didn't create gravity, he just discovered it, named it. The laws of nature exist because the same creator created them. So spirituality is not against the laws of science. It's about how to realize you are not that which is subject to them. So the body is aging, for example, regardless of what pill you may take, what tonic you may drink. I just got back from America last week in California, and I always laugh. You drive through the streets of LA, and wherever you look, there is someone else promising that behind their doors are the secrets of immortality, age reversal, age defying, young forever. I mean, amazing. A cream. A mask. A wrap. Somehow, it's going to undo all of the laws of nature that have been in existence for billions of years. Of course not. Now, as we age, we get to make decisions. Do we prefer the color brown or yellow or black to the color gray? If so, people dye their hair. If not, we don't dye our hair. Either way, it has nothing to do with aging or not aging. The body is subject to these laws. It's going to age eventually. It's going to die eventually. Whether through sickness, whether through accident, whether through a mosquito bite, or whether through just at some point, or through coronavirus, or through at some point the soul leaves the body. The point of spirituality is not, how can I figure out how not to be subject to the laws of science? In fact, Puja Swamiji, my guru, tells a beautiful story of when he had first come here, going back now 50 plus years. And one day this saint came to the ashram who said, I can walk on water. And everybody was amazed. Wow. And he showed them. He actually demonstrated. He walked out onto the river and he walked on the waters of Ganga. And everybody was amazed and they sat around him. How did you do that? He said, I've spent 40 years engaged in this very, very specific type of spiritual practice. And now I can do it. He says, if you want, I will teach you. So Puja Swamiji says to him, for 5 rupees, this boat guy will take me across the river and I can spend the next 40 years of my life in service of humanity rather than figuring out how to defy the laws of nature. It's not about the highest form of spirituality is not what kind of tricks can I do to defy the laws of nature. It's about how can I use that which I've been given in the best possible way for what it's been given to me for. If God had wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings. If he'd wanted us to be able to walk on water, we wouldn't be subject to the laws of gravity. But he's put us here with compassion, with love, with initiative, with creativity, with consciousness, so that we may use those to wake up, to realize the truth of who we are, and to use our lives in service of God in creation. So, spirituality is not the answer to this disease or that disease. I mean, yes, on a very basic level, we also know people who are spiritual actually do tend to have more robust immune systems. Separate subject, I happen to know it because I am a scientist. I love the science. I've done a lot of research in this. So we actually do know that people who are spiritual have robust immune systems, do tend to be healthier, a robust immune system. It's a beautiful byproduct of living in balance with the world. Because of course the flip side is we know that stress is correlated with something like 85% of illnesses. And so naturally you can understand on a very simplistic level, if I'm deeply spiritual, if I'm grounded and rooted in faith, in something that's beyond the body, beyond my bank account, chances are I'm going to be less stressed out by every fluctuation in the stock market. Chances are I'm going to be less stressed by the bathroom scale or my colleagues at work or the traffic on the freeway. Therefore, immune system gets stronger. That's one way it works. There's other ways also it works. But the point is, that's a beautiful byproduct. It's not go to God so that you don't catch the flu this season. It's go to God because that's why you're here. And you know what? Along the way, most of us are going to have some combination of colds and flus and ailments and injuries. It's part of the human package. So as long as we're talking about, ending suffering, why stop at coronavirus? Lots more people are dying of lots more things than that. A few hundred people have died of that. Tens of thousands of children have died today of starvation. What about them? Because for them, we actually do have a cure. The scientists will work it out for coronavirus eventually. But those tens of thousands of children who are dying of starvation every day, while those of us who have the luxury to choose are choosing to eat in such a way that it's actually pulling the food out of their mouths, that our dietary choices, the whole business of animal agriculture, of meat production, that literally takes the planet's grains and turns them into hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets instead of bread and rice for those who are hungry. That's something we can do something about. And that is a spiritual problem. Because that, you don't die of starvation because somebody sneezed on you or because you got bit by the wrong mosquito. They're dying of starvation very directly because we are not living spiritual lives. Because we're not connected to our oneness with them. And so let's start with what we know we can impact. There's so much in the world today. And it's beautiful to see your passion for working for it. Let's keep the trees in the ground. Stop cutting them down to graze the cows that become hamburgers. Stop cutting them down for more and more oil. Let's keep our planet fed. We grow enough grain every day for 10 billion people. There's only 7+ something billion on Earth. Let the grain go to the hungry children rather than insisting that it go via livestock because I want to eat hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. Let's buy organic so that our earth and our water stays healthy, so that our sisters and brothers who are drinking the water of the rivers are not drinking agricultural toxic runoff. It's a beautiful opportunity, actually, because when you look at it as living consciously, rather than just finding a cure to one illness, it's something that every one of us can do every single minute of every single day. It's how we eat, it's how we shop, it's our footprint upon Mother Earth. As long as our motto is more, 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 cheaper, 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 women and children will keep dying in sweatshops in third world countries. It's just the law of supply and demand. But the minute that we say no more, the minute that we're actually prepared to wear the same clothes as last year, and not necessarily buy a new model mobile just because a new model has come out, the minute that we actually are able, as Gandhiji, I think, said, to live simply so that others may simply live, then every minute becomes meditation. Every minute becomes my spiritual life. Yes, you had a question.
My question is that how to like, dislike?
How to?
Like, dislike.
How to like or dislike? How to do it?
How to like to dislike, which I don't like. How to like that?
Ah, okay. How to like that which I dislike. Ultimately, the idea is to go beyond both of them. Anybody here surf? Is anybody here? It's okay. Raise your hand. Just a couple people. Anybody? All right. Only a couple. Has anybody ever seen people surfing? Okay. Better. When you surf, they only surf on waves that are going down. So if you watch people who are surfing, what you'll see is they've got their surfboard in their arms. They go up on the wave, and right at the very top of the wave, they then stand up on the board and they surf it coming down, right? Surfing can only happen on a wave that is going down. They can't surf up. They ride the wave up and then surf it down. If I'm committed that surfing is my highest goal, well, I need to depend upon waves going down, or I can't surf. And I need to depend upon them going down in a very specific way, but for this, all that matters is they must go down. If I'm a business person, I need to depend on the stock market going up, or even if not a business person, but an investor. If I've got money in the stock market, I need it to go up. Only then am I going to get more and more money. But the waves of the ocean, stock market, it never only goes in one direction. It always up, down, up, down, up, down. It's the nature of nature. And to try to like everything, the dilemma with that is that it's like saying, so I'm tired of going up and down. I'm tired of likes and dislikes. From now on, I'm going to only go up. Now, it's certainly better than going down. It's better to like everything than to like some things and dislike others. Because if I like it, I've accepted it. And acceptance is a crucial key to living in peace and joy. But ultimately, there's also another place we want to go, which is beyond the waves. Because eventually you get tired. Even surfing the best waves, at the end of the day, you're tired. Ultimately, the goal is to go into those depths of the ocean where there aren't any waves. It's not about how can I get the best waves. It's about how deeply can I go where there are no waves. And so rather than just focusing on turning my dislikes into likes, it's a great first step, and we'll talk in a moment about how to get there. But more than that, can I focus on being free of both of them? In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks about a yogi, the wise one, the enlightened one, as one who is the same in pleasure and pain, in success and failure, and all of these opposites. But the yogi's the same. Because he's not thrown about by the waves, sometimes up, sometimes down, but grounded and anchored in something that's much deeper than going up and down. The joy, the bliss, when we talk about real spiritual joy, it can't be rooted in something I like. Because even if I like it, it's going to end. So I really like this chocolate ice cream cone. It's great. I'm eating it. I like it. Maybe I even love it. So I'm happy. But then it's over. Now I need to find something else I like in order to be happy again. Now maybe I have some pizza. I really like that. Okay, happy again. Now my pizza's over. Now I need a movie I like. Now I need to go out with a friend I like. And we have to keep finding things we like so that we can keep being happy. It gets really tiring. And it pulls you completely off the actual purpose of your life, which is how to be happy. Right here, right now. In a happiness that's not dependent on what I like or don't like. What I have or don't have. And that's what our spiritual practice gives us, is that joy. That's when we pray for that joy. That bliss. It's not about, oh God, let everything I want to happen, happen so then I feel happy. It's, oh God, give me that joy that never fades. Well, if it never fades, it means it cannot be dependent upon something in the outer world, because the outer world is always going to go up and down. So sometimes I'll succeed, sometimes I'll fail. Sometimes the flowers in my garden will blossom, sometimes they won't. Sometimes my loved ones who get sick will get better. Sometimes my loved ones who get sick won't get better. This is the nature of life. And so I need my inner state to not be dependent on whether I like it or don't like it. And that's what's most important. And so as you're experiencing what you need to do, it's tricky, because when something's happening that we like, we forget to do this. We only remember to do it when we don't like it, and it doesn't work if you only do it half the time. So when you're experiencing joy due to something you like, and when you are experiencing a loss of joy due to something you don't like, in both cases, you have to try to unhook your joy or your distress from that thing in the outer world. So, I'm eating a chocolate ice cream cone. I really like it. I'm happy. Can I stop in the midst of the bite? The moment I realize how happy I am, and unhook that joy from the chocolate ice cream. I'm not saying you have to take the ice cream and throw it away. Keep eating it, no problem. But just take a moment and allow that experience of joy, rather than just gobbling it up. Rather than that, allow that joy to penetrate places that chocolate ice cream doesn't reach. And you may not always be able to, because you may find that the joy is actually so shallow that really, unfortunately, no part of your body is able to experience joy other than your tongue, which is another important lesson. It's another important lesson, at which point maybe you can find some joy in the sunshine outside. Maybe it's not the ice cream that you can find joy in, but maybe the way that the sun is shining, you can find it. Or if not, maybe you can turn your head and see a beautiful tree. Find some joy in there. But every time you find yourself in a moment of joy due to something you like, stop. Unhook the joy from the object that you think is causing it. And take it as deeply as you can. And actually experience the joy. Because what you'll notice when you do that is that then when you go back to take your next bite of ice cream, it actually will bring you less joy. It's a very beautiful and very interesting phenomenon. The tongue will still love it. But if in between bites you've been able to anchor that joy deeply and find that experience of joy within, the reward on the tongue with the next bite actually is even less interesting. And then you do it again the next bite, and just keep doing that as you feel joy in life because you like something. Stop. Even if it's with a loved one. Oh, I'm with my friend, or I'm with my spouse or my child or my parent. I'm feeling so much joy. Okay, stop. Close your eyes. Can you unhook the joy from that physical presence? Can you feel the experience of love and joy within you? Separate from the physical presence of that being. Anchor it within. And then, when you experience things that you don't like, when you're in moments that you don't like, if you've been doing this in things that do bring joy, in moments that aren't so pleasant, you're already going to realize how shallow that unpleasantness is, and it's not going to impact you. You're going to already realize, this is just on this level. And then, now that you've become good at anchoring yourself in joy, so on the outer level, I'm eating really badly cooked Brussels sprouts. Okay, not enjoying it. But can I close my eyes and anchor myself in joy anyway? Of course I can. Then I go back to the unpleasant experience of the Brussels sprouts. No problem. Again, like the ice cream cone, it's limited to my tongue. I'm able to find that joy. Similarly, a person in front of me, maybe not someone who's bringing me joy, but someone who's bringing me difficulty. Not liking this situation. But can I find that state of joy within me anyway? Despite the fact that there is someone in front of me who's creating trouble for me? Of course I can. And so you just keep re-anchoring yourself in both times, in that presence of joy within the self. And then both that which I like and that which I dislike, they'll stay like these surface level waves. Wonderful. From tomorrow, we will, hopefully, we'll let you know as you walk in. It's both the same place, but it's likely that instead of coming into this room, we'll go into the garden area where there's more space. So Karuna will coordinate that, and as you walk in the same main doors tomorrow, but just they'll either guide you back in here, or more likely they'll guide you into the garden. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening and night and daytime tomorrow.